Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This Krishna consciousness movement is a movement of bhakti. So this word bhakti is well known throughout India, and almost everyone has some sense of bhakti. Not many people are atheists. So even in Christianity, although it's a different approach in many ways, but the general idea is that there should be bhakti. So generally it's considered that bhakti should be for God or gods. Sometimes there's also the idea of matri bhakti, devotion to one's mother, or desha bhakti, devotion to one's country. So in this Krishna consciousness movement, we want to inform people what is actually bhakti and how important is bhakti. How important is bhakti? What is the answer to this question? Many people will say that, well, bhakti is okay, but the first thing is we have to earn some money. Let's be practical. And some people will say, oh, that's not important at all. Just work hard and earn money, and what do you need all this bhakti? What's the point? What do you get from it? So in this Krishna conscious movement, we want to inform others that bhakti is essential. What is essential in our life? Food is essential. Money is essential. A place to live is essential. But we want to inform people that even if you don't have food, and even if you don't have clothing, and you don't have money, and you don't have a house, even bhakti is more important. Bhakti is the very essence of our being. And that bhakti means Krishna bhakti. We may have a general feeling of bhakti towards different gods, or toward our mother, or we may have a loving feeling toward our wife, but bhakti means for Krishna. That is Now in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, who is the object of this bhakti, in the beginning, he doesn't speak to Arjuna about bhakti. He ends Bhagavad Gita by telling Arjuna, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mang namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyang te pratijane priyosi me. So Krishna finishes Bhagavad Gita by teaching about bhakti, but in the beginning he teaches who we actually are. We are not the body. The body is temporary, we are eternal, Atma, spirit soul. And the Atma, being eternal, has an eternal relationship with Krishna, not with various demigods, and not with a particular country. We may be born in India in one life and born in Pakistan in the next life. Of course, Pakistan was traditionally part of India also, but now it's separated. So in this life we may say, Mera Bharat Mahan. In Hindi it's said, my India is great. But in the next life, if we're born in Pakistan, we'll say, Wo India Dushman. They say Pakistan Zindabad. And anyway, just giving it as an example. We don't want to get too much into politics here. So that is why bhakti to Krishna is more essential even than food or clothing or anything, because that is our eternal necessity. Whereas food and clothing and all these things, they're for the body. Now we're not saying throw your clothes away and stop eating. Krishna is not impractical. As long as we're in this world, we have to deal with the necessities of this world. But we should understand that we are suffering in this world life after life because we take this world too seriously. We become so absorbed in making arrangements for ahara nidra bhai maitun, eating, sleeping, fighting and sexual activity, that we forget that our real connection is with Krishna. So Krishna, first of all, teaches that we are eternal Atma. because Arjuna, he was bewildered, and his attitude of bhakti, which should be for Krishna, he had directed toward his family members. So Krishna first of all taught him that we are eternal living beings. Elsewhere in Shastra, in Srimad Bhagavatam, some examples are given, analogies are given about our material relationships. One example given is just like twigs are floating in a river, and sometimes one group of twigs come together and they float down the stream, and then they separate, and then they form with other twigs to make another group. Another example is given is that like we're like guests or visitors in a hotel. So if you go to a hotel, and you may meet some other people staying in the hotel, and you may make friends with them, but anyway, tomorrow you have to go somewhere else and they'll go somewhere else. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't look after our families and we don't have affection for them. But we should know that our eternal relationship is with Krishna. And of course, in Vedic language, the wife is called Dharma Patni. So that means that affection is there between husband and wife on the platform of dharma, of serving Krishna. But this proper understanding of bhakti has to be there. If we don't properly understand who we are, then we can't properly understand what our real necessity is. So we are eternal, spiritual, living beings. We are eternally related with Krishna. Mamaivangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Yeah, that's so that says. Then why are we in this world? Manashashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Because our mind, the mind is absorbed in sense enjoyment. Therefore, we are stuck in this material world. So this information is required to be given. That our real necessity is to revive our natural love for Krishna. That feeling of bhakti, which is the religious feeling, that has to be developed further. First of all, we have to understand that the proper object of affection, of bhakti, is Krishna. Now, people worship various gods and they feel some bhakti for these various gods. But the affection is on the basis of thinking, I'm worshipping some different god and they're giving me something in return. So there's some feeling of affection, but it's not at a very high level of consciousness. It's a little bit like a business exchange. I do so much puja and I follow some vrata, and in return I get this and that. And one may have such an attitude in relationship to Krishna also. Just like there are, in this area of the world, there are so many devotees of Venkatesh, Sheshadrinath. But people go thinking that we'll get something. People give a lot of money, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, but they have the faith that they'll get more back, and they do. But Krishna doesn't really want, and he certainly doesn't need our money. Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita to inform everyone that he wants our love. So real bhakti means bhakti for Krishna, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone has a relationship with Krishna. Krishna is the center of everything. So even the great demigods, we might focus our bhakti on them, but they focus their bhakti on Krishna. And even Jesus, he said, "Our Father who art in heaven," that means he's a devotee of Krishna, actually. Just some people misunderstood him to be directly God himself, which he never said himself. So Krishna is the actual person to whom our bhakti should be directed. He is within everyone's heart. He is overseeing everyone, whether or not they recognize him. And Krishna is that person who can reciprocate our bhakti with every living being, unlimited living beings. But real bhakti means not a business exchange. We have heard of the great devotees, the residents of Vrindavan, the Gopikas of Vrindavan, the Nanda and Yashoda, So this is often misunderstood. But they are the greatest devotees because their whole being is rich with intense bhakti. It means that they cannot think at any moment except how they can please Krishna. So we are we want to come to that platform. So we begin that platform, to come to that platform by understanding that real bhakti means to serve Krishna without demanding anything from Krishna, without expecting any material gain from Krishna. This is the principle of bhakti. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnanakamadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktirutama. Real bhakti, or the topmost bhakti, is that in which there is no demand from Krishna. We don't think that, well, by performing bhakti, I'll get a nice house and a nice car and everything will be nice for me in this world. Or even we don't think that I'll get mukti, because the principle of bhakti is seva. So, and without any motivation. So we don't demand even from Krishna, give me mukti. Of course, Krishna gives that to his devotees. But the point is the devotees have no demands from Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed in this way to teach us, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam, va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktirahaitu tvai. You can get the translation. This means what is well known as prapatti or sharanagati. Fully offering ourselves, giving ourselves to Krishna, taking full shelter of Krishna. So we want to educate people in what is their real need. Our real need is simply Krishna bhakti. It is essential. It is not optional. Of course, it's optional in the sense that we can't force anyone to take to it. But just like eating food is essential to stay alive, so to be spiritually alive, we must dedicate ourselves in bhakti to Krishna. It's just like eating food is essential. It's not optional. Well, in one sense it's optional. You don't have to eat, but the consequences of not eating are so bad that it's practically, we can say it's essential. So in the same way, we can choose to practice Krishna bhakti or not. But if we don't, then punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Birth after birth, death after death, we simply have to suffer. But actually those who are pure devotees of Krishna, they simply love Krishna because they love Krishna. They don't even think, I have to get free from the suffering of this world. Just like the iron flakes are attracted to a magnet. The iron flake, why is it? You can study in physics why it's attracted, but whether you study it or not, the fact is that the iron flake will be attracted to the magnet. It's natural, automatic. So it's just natural for the jiva to be attracted to Krishna. So then why do we not feel that attraction? We may even feel I'm not interested at all. It is an unnatural position. If you put an opposite charge in the iron flakes, they won't go toward the magnet, they'll go away. So we're oppositely charged. We're in an unnatural condition. We are in the condition of thinking that I don't need Krishna. Krishna comes to this world to teach Bhagavad Gita. And the teachings of Bhagavad Gita they're elaborated in Srimad Bhagavatam. We think this world is very important. But beyond this material world in which there is always birth and death, there is the spiritual world, where everything is eternal. Everything is blissful. There's no old age. There's no death. There are no hospitals. There are no factories. There's no taxes to pay. No anxiety. Just the bliss of always living with Krishna. Krishna is always happy. When we think of happy, what do we think? What makes us happy? Some nice idlis maybe. On a hot day in the middle of summer, we walk into an air-conditioned room. After being constipated for 2 days, I can pass stool. It's very great happiness. But the happiness of the spiritual world is in a completely different category. We can't even imagine it. As long as we're thinking that to pass stool is happiness, we can't imagine what is the happiness of the spiritual world. What is the happiness of the spiritual world? Seeing Krishna, hearing Krishna's flute playing, cooking for Krishna, feeding Krishna, dancing with Krishna, playing games with Krishna, complete absorption in Krishna, complete love for Krishna. People in this material world, we cannot even imagine what is the spiritual world. Sometimes people think, this material world is too much suffering, I'll get liberation, mukti. And they think, I'll just become part of some big light. Of the spiritual world. There's some relief. Now I don't have to go to work anymore. I don't have to get born and die again and again. There's some kind of relief there. But real spiritual bliss is dynamic activity in the service of Krishna. So people in this world, they only believe what they see. The scientists will say, well, we only believe it if you can prove it. There's no scientific experiment that you can make to see the spiritual world. You can't mix together some chemicals and say abracadabra and then the spiritual world appears. However good a telescope you get, you won't see the spiritual world. You can make all mathematical calculations, life after life, but still you won't find the spiritual world. But there is a spiritual science of purification of the heart. When the heart is pure, then we can see Krishna. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santah sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yang shyama sundaram achintya guna swarupam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Yeah, give the translation. So this is the spiritual science. If we follow this process of bhakti, our heart will become pure, and then we will see Krishna everywhere. The heart becomes pure means it becomes free from all material desires, attachments and misconceptions. In bhakti there are various processes. Shravanam, hearing about Krishna. Kirtanam, chanting about Krishna. Smaranam, remembering Krishna. Archanam, worshipping Krishna. Vandanam, which means to pray to Krishna, then serving the lotus feet of Krishna. In Kali Yuga, the most important is Kirtan. Kirtan, Krishna Kirtan, especially the chanting of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that cleans the heart of all the bad things and awakens our natural bhakti for Krishna. So this is the spiritual science. Those who have a little faith, they will take up this process. Yeah. So thank you for coming forward and taking part in this process. We can all experience, when we take to Krishna consciousness, how there is a change of consciousness, how we naturally feel happy. That is natural, because nothing in this world can fully satisfy us. But Krishna fully satisfies us. So we want to inform people that we are all meant for performing bhakti. Everyone, every living being. Actually, not even only the humans, but in every species of life. But in the human form of life, we have enough intelligence to begin to understand these points. Unfortunately, in the modern age, people's intelligence is spoiled by so many diversions. Otherwise, at least in India, most people used to understand that the real goal of life is to spiritually advance. So now you're fortunate enough to take to this bhakti process, and we can request you to please help to bring others also. Let others share this good fortune. In this way, we spread bhakti. Bhakti is for Krishna, Bhakti is meant to be focused on Krishna, but Krishna, he is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. He is the best friend of all living beings. So, when we say that our bhakti is only for Krishna, that doesn't mean that we forget everyone in the world, or that we have no love for anyone in the world. Rather, we have real love because that's based on the real principle of love, which is to love Krishna. So we can really love everyone in the best possible way by trying to bring them into Krishna consciousness. Within family life also, the solid basis of a good family is that everyone is united in Krishna Bhakti. So these are the basic principles of Krishna Bhakti. It's not very difficult to understand. It's difficult to understand for people who are grossly materialistic, who cannot understand that I am not this body, who think that what I need is what I need for this body. But if we can understand that the body is temporary and I am eternal, then we have to understand what is our eternal need. Our eternal need is love. And the eternal person with who we have that eternal relationship of love, that is Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so are there any questions? Everything's clear, is it? So please take it up very seriously. Please study Srila Prabhupada's books. Chant the holy name of Krishna systematically by chanting rounds on beads. And just make Krishna Bhakti the focus of your life. Not part of our life, not even the most important part of our life, but the focus of our life. That means that, yes, eating and working and all these things can go on, but the real object of our life is to revive our dormant Krishna consciousness. Alright then, Hare Krishna.